Hi, Cavaliers. This is Mr. Moses. I'm super excited to introduce our first ever virtual APIA month assembly. I'm super excited that we get to finish off APIA month with all of you together. Today, our focus is really going to be on celebrating the API community, highlighting some of the staff and students who identify as APIA at Brays Oaks, and then really trying to raise awareness around some of the issues that the APIA community, especially in the United States, is currently facing. So please enjoy with us as we go through today's assembly, and we hope that you learn a little bit more about the APIA community.
There's a cool dance called Tanikling. We use bamboo sticks to dance.
I've been playing taiko for 7 years.
I play taiko. I dance hula and tap.
I'm Chinese,
Sri Lankan, Filipino,
Indonesian, and Korean.
I'm Japanese.
Indian American, the South Pacific.
My family came from Vietnam. My grandma teaches me how to make pho.
In here we have some cylinder seed.
I teach her how to make slime.
Holly is the beginning of spring, and my favorite thing is throwing colored powder.
What's great about being Chinese is all the food, like noodles, dumplings.
I love sushi.
My favorite is chicken adobo.
Chinese New Year is celebrated with a huge feast. Also, there's a huge dragon dance.
My name is Emily, and I'm a photographer.
I like to make games.
I like pizza.
I'm wacky.
I'm energetic.
I like to play basketball.
I have 2 snails.
5 cats.
I'm creative.
I like hitting the drum hard.
I'm a leader.
I'm stubborn. I'm fun.
I paint.
I swim.
I sing.
I dance.
I'm busy.
That's me.
That's me. I'm proud of where I'm from.
To play some APIA trivia for our assembly with the whole school. We played this trivia game during the APIA summit earlier this month. So the first question, why does APIA month take place in May? So I'm going to give you a little bit of time to think through your answer, and then I will reveal the answer. There are actually 2 reasons the APIA Heritage Month is in May. The first reason is it is to mark the arrival of the first Japanese immigrant to the United States. That happened in the month of May, many, many years ago. And it marks the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad, which was largely built by Chinese laborers, also completed in May. So for those 2 reasons, May is designated as Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Question number 2. What percentage of the U.S. population is considered APIA, so Asian Pacific Islander American? The answer is there are approximately 18 million APIA individuals in the United States. That is approximately 7% of our population. However, globally, there are 7.77 billion Asian Pacific Islander American individuals in the world. That is approximately 59.51% of the population. What states have the highest Asian Pacific Islander population? So if you're thinking of the United States, which states hold the largest population of Asian Pacific Islanders? The Asian population in California is the state with the highest percentage of Asian individuals. It is 17% of their state population. Pacific Islander population make up 25% of the population in Hawaii. Texas actually comes in the top 5 for both the Asian population and the Pacific Islander population of states. What percentages of businesses are owned by the APIA community? So a couple of questions ago, we found out they are 7% of the population, but what percentage of business do they own in the U.S.? The answer, the APIA community owns approximately 10% of all businesses in the U.S. How many languages are spoken in the APIA community? Remember, APIA stands for Asian Pacific Islander American, so we are talking about a very large group of people. The answer is there are over 300 distinct languages under the APIA umbrella. And my last question, how many ethnicities are represented under the APIA community? So if our languages gave us any hint, it is going to be a much larger number than I think you think. The APIA community represents 48 distinct ethnic groups in that label. And so thank you for playing along. Enjoy the rest of the assembly.
Hi, Cavaliers. This is Mr. Moses. I'm super excited to introduce our first ever virtual APIA month assembly. I'm super excited that we get to finish off APIA month with all of you together. Today, our focus is really going to be on celebrating the API community, highlighting some of the staff and students who identify as APIA at Brays Oaks, and then really trying to raise awareness around some of the issues that the APIA community, especially in the United States, is currently facing. So please enjoy with us as we go through today's assembly, and we hope that you learn a little bit more about the APIA community. We're done.
Hi, everybody. Our first question for today. What is your favorite dish or restaurant from the APIA community?
So I'm Miss Devesser. I am half Sri Lankan, and one of my favorite dishes is this dish called the hopper, which is like a thin rice batter that's poured into a really hot pan that's shaped like a bowl. So you pour it in, you swirl the bowl around, and it makes this crepe that's also shaped like a bowl, where the bottom of the crepe is really sweet and doughy and soft, and the edges are crispy. And what I love about it is you can make it sweet or savory. So you can put like curry in it and have it be savory like an egg, or you can do jam and butter, which is my favorite, and have it as a dessert.
Oh. So I'm Miss Gounder. I'm half Indian, and so I'm actually half Indian and half French. And so I'm going to recommend a restaurant in Houston that is half Indian and half French. It's called Pondicherry. And so some of my favorite things at Pondicherry, they have an awesome like ginger cloud cardamom cookie, so it's sweet with spice in it. I also love, they have a dish called puris, which is a pretty traditional South Indian food. So it's basically like a puffed bread that you fry, and you can eat it with all sorts of sauces. One of my favorite things to eat it with is like a potato-based curry that you kind of like cut up the pieces of bread and you scoop it up and you eat the potato curry.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mr. Moses. Both of my parents are from South India. And so one of my favorite dishes, well, actually, I think like in general, I just love rice, and it's definitely not a healthy option, but like that is a huge staple in Indian food. And my favorite part about eating rice is eating it with my hands. So if you were here last year, you saw me show a video of how to eat rice with your hands. So there's a rice dish called biryani, which is basically just like an assortment of like spices, different meats that you can put in it. And it's a rice dish. So very similar to like a Spanish paella almost, I would say. That's definitely my favorite. And specifically where my mom is from, which is Hyderabad, it's famous for biryani.
Hi everyone, this is Miss Sanchez. So I'm going to share you my favorite restaurant that I like to go to. It's called Seoul Garden. There is where I have my favorite Korean restaurant that we love to go eat. Favorite part about that place is that you have all the meats you guys can eat, and it's all pre-seasoned. And then in the middle, you have this barbecue grill, and then you can just grill your own meats, and it's super delicious. And then on the side, they'll give you unlimited sides of kimchi, vegetables, pancakes, like unlimited that you can eat throughout your entire experience there. So that's like my absolute favorite.
Hungry now.
Yes.
Great. Okay, guys, our next question. How has your APIA background shaped who you are today?
So as I mentioned, I'm half Sri Lankan. My dad immigrated from Sri Lanka shortly after his mom came in the early 70s. And my whole family followed after that. And so what it meant was that I grew up in a family unit that was really connected, like all my cousins, aunts, and uncles, spending lots of time together. And that connection that we had bred a lot of like safety and comfort. But I also think that the fact that my family came here and took this big risk gave me the courage to do some of that myself. So I moved away from my family after college, and I actually haven't really been back except to visit. I've been living in Louisiana, I've been living in Texas, and I feel really like proud of my heritage. And I also think it's just very cool that my family has this history of like taking big leaps and taking risks and exploring new parts of the world, because that's also how I've decided to spend part of my adult life.
So in some ways, my story is a bit similar to Ms. DeVesser's. My dad immigrated to the United States from India in the mid-1960s. And so if you guys remember from history class, really like it was 1965 when you started seeing Asian immigrants being allowed to come into the US. And my dad was one of the first waves of immigrants to come in, actually to go to school, so to do his PhD. My dad's story carries a lot with me and is a huge source of motivation for me. My dad grew up in a small farming village in South India, and all of his brothers and sisters, all of his family was farmers. My dad was actually like too small to be useful on the farm, and so he ended up going to school. And so my dad ended up being the first person to graduate from high school in his village, the first person to leave his village to go to college, the first person from his village to get a PhD, the first person from his village to leave the country and go to the US. And so for me, I think my dad grew up both like incredibly proud of his heritage and incredibly proud of where he came from. And that kept him really grounded in who he was. And I think also just had a sense of like tremendous desire to give back to his own community and to make sure that like what he was able to accomplish in the United States benefited people in his own community. And so I feel that tremendous just desire to like try to do big things and to make big things happen and to be that level of inspiration for my own daughter, because my dad was that for me.
So for me, in terms of what's shaped my, how my identity has shaped my experience growing up, I'm originally from Utah, so that is definitely a predominantly white state. And growing up, like going to school, I was the only Indian person usually in my class, whether that was elementary school, middle school, high school, and even college. So I think for me, growing up for sure, especially in middle school and high school, I was very self-conscious and I don't want to say ashamed, but I think I was very like unsure of how to express my Indian identity and how to embrace it. I think most of my friends were white, so I didn't really bring that part of my identity out. And I think I assimilated a lot to white culture in many ways while I was growing up. But especially after I graduated high school, I had multiple opportunities to go to India, whether that was like through opportunities with my family, with like the church that my family went to, or like my college experience. I was able to go to India a couple times. And that really just like helped me to really, first of all, love the place that my parents are both from. And also like understand like there are so many cool things that like I should not be ashamed of and I should like celebrate and embrace as much as possible. So I think during my college years, I started doing that more and more, but especially after I moved to Houston and saw like how diverse it is here and like how many Indian people are here, that really helped me just like completely embrace every aspect of being Indian, and I'm like very proud of it in every way.
Okay, so my parents are both from China. The one person that really influenced the culture of the Chinese community for me was my mom. So her family background, she comes from the what is it? The Qing dynasty. So my grandfather that has been passed away, he has instilled this very strong discipline, respect. The biggest one was education, along with the tradition that they carry to my mom. And then from my mom, she have embraced that, all that she's learned from my grandfather for me. So growing up, I've learned a lot of the traditions, the culture, the food, even like some of the superstitions from my culture. And that has really like made me grow as a person. Growing up, I was not the proudest of my culture, you can say, because I was born and raised in Americas, and I wasn't really like, I was a little like embarrassed of who I was because I'm not a full American. But as I grew older and I got myself educated and studied the history, I learned to really appreciate really like everything about me and the Asian community. It's just like what really shaped me, and there's nothing to be ashamed of.
Thank you. Okay, our last question. As a member of the APIA community, what are your hopes for Yes Prep Brays Oaks?
For me, I think one of the things that I always enjoy is like seeing the sort of delighted surprise on people's faces when I explain to them that I am both Black and Asian. And I think that that intersection of the different parts of my identity is something that's really important to me, really unique to me. It makes me who I am, and I love that about myself. One thing I love about Brays Oaks is how kind everybody is, and that includes all of the students. So one thing that I hope for you all is that you can find that joy and that sort of delight in some of your friendships with celebrating the sort of intersections of your different identities and your friends' different identities that might occur in ways that are really unexpected, but actually show that we have such a vibrant community and a lot of reasons to celebrate who we are.
One of the common trends that I heard in our conversation that I can identify with too is like this feeling of being one of the only Asian kids in class. So for a lot of my school career, I was the only or one of the only Asian kids in class too. And so I also really struggled with like being ashamed of my background or like wanting to fit in or wanting to assimilate. And I know that at Brays Oaks, like I know I haven't done enough of a job of talking about my own identity. And I know that like often some of our Asian students on campus feel the same way of like, what is my space on campus? Like, are there other people who look like me? And can I be proud of who I am? And so my hope is for more spaces like this. My hope is for more spaces for Asian students to be able to connect with each other, to connect with Asian staff members, and to be able to share and be proud. And my hope is that as a campus community, we will be curious and really value just the beauty and the diversity of everyone in our community and our Asian students and what they bring to making the school a great place.
I think for me, my hope for Brays Oaks specifically is that I think if you are an Asian American student or an Asian student at Brays Oaks right now, one of the things I want to really emphasize is the word ally and like being an ally. I think there's been a lot of times throughout this year where it's been really important for people who do not identify as necessarily Black or Latinx to be an ally. And I definitely have felt that as a person that is fully Asian American, understanding that like it is really important to be an ally for the Black community and for the Latinx community and like for any other community of color, because we are really like fighting for the same things. And I would hope that then in return, that then we would be able to like find allyship when like the APIA community is struggling. And like that has happened for the last several months. There's a lot of things happening in the Asian community that we do need allies and we do need support. So it's only fair that like we return that allyship in return.
Okay, so my hope for Brays is kind of like a little bit of what everybody said, is really like, don't be afraid of who you are, what your background is. Really embrace yourself, embrace your identity, embrace your culture. No matter, what race you are, at the end of the day is like, we're a family, and in times of need, we're always there to support, to guide, to lead each other, to better ourselves and to better our community. So that's my biggest hope, and hopefully you guys can also have this nice takeaway from all of us to lead on. So yeah.
Thanks everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So as I mentioned earlier, we are closing our assembly by really focusing on raising awareness. In the past year, there's been a lot of issues that have come up against the APIA community. I think when it comes to discrimination and hate towards that community, we want to make sure that our students at Brays Oaks know about it, understand it, and are able to be allies if you don't identify as APIA to members who do identify in that community. So please pay attention as we go through this next part. We want to make sure that you guys are really understanding what's going on in our world today.
We're living at a time when humanity matters most. Even though we're physically apart, we must all come together as one.
Yes, we're worried about our health, our loved ones, job prospects, our nation.
It's a scary time, but we can't let fear turn into hate.
Far too many people are using this crisis as an excuse to forget reason and embrace racism.
Asian Americans have been the victims of verbal and physical harassment during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Law enforcement has recorded a surge in hate crimes aimed at our community.
Families have been shunned, businesses vandalized.
People attacked on public transportation and children bullied and called hurtful names.
Can you imagine what it's like to face this kind of behavior at a time like this?
That's what many of us across America are dealing with during this crisis.
And the number of incidents, they will rise, I'm afraid so.
We must all stop the stigma. We must all stop the xenophobia. We must all stop the hate.
This crisis has revealed some of our strengths.
Communities virtually coming together to raise money, feed people, lift spirits up.
So let's make sure ending this behavior becomes one of our strengths. Stand up against racism when we see it.
Support local Asian American business owners. Take care of your neighbors. We will get through this with empathy, care, and love of our fellow man, woman, and child.
As members of SAG-AFTRA and as Americans, we know our strength is in our diversity.
We are always
stronger together.
Hey, what's up guys? In today's video, we'll be filming the Asian places in Houston. So here I am at Bel Air in Houston, which is like the most prominent place for Asian people in Houston. So here we are, let's go. And if you look it up on a map, you could search for H Mart Bel Air, which is right off Bel Air Boulevard and the 8th Highway. Starting off here, we have Sterling Square, which has a bunch of things on the sign right there. The plaza itself was kind of empty, of course, with this illness going on, but there's a bingsu Korean dessert cafe. On this particular corner, we have a bakery and cafe, a Hawaiian place, just a random Asian cuisine, and a noodle house. Over here, there's a Seven Leaves Cafe, a salon, a law office, and some regenerative therapy. Immediately to the left of H Mart, there are a lot more shops, including a tea shop, a seafood type shop, some dim sum, all day dim sum. And there's plenty more going down the line, as you can see right here. And on this side of Bel Air Boulevard, H Mart really is the anchor store in the middle of all the action here, surrounded by all these other food shops. On the right side of H Mart, once again, you got the salon, you have a foot specialist, there's a tofu restaurant, literally a bunch of different restaurants depending on what you're looking for, you know, some jewelry shops, some law offices, real estate. All of that's going on down here. There's even this bank, another tea house, another cafe, another massage parlor. So you pretty much get the idea of what's going on here. And on this corner, we have some more clinics, realty shops, and the 85 Degrees C Cafe. On the other side of Bel Air Boulevard, there's this massive two-story complex, which pretty much has the same thing but on a larger scale. So here is the massive complex with food shops, different clinics, different fitness, furniture, KTV type shops. And then you have this anchor supermarket at the corner. Yep, so tucked in the corner over here, we have the Great Wall Supermarket. And right behind that, there is this massive covered parking garage in case you need to park your car. Lining this side of the plaza, we have way more things going on. More massage parlors, we have a gaming lab, shabu house, gongcha, gogo curry, feng cha, a dance academy, another massage parlor, orthodontist, vision. Yep, that's all lying in this place. Followed by more Asian food shops and then even an orthodontist up there. Like literally comparing this to H Mart in Carrollton and 99 Ranch in Carrollton, this definitely beats it by a long shot. So here's another row of more restaurants, another dance academy, another CPA, physical therapy, bakery, lining this side of the house. And we just about reached the end of it by looking at this other hot pot shop, more food shops, more mortgages, more salons, more bars, cafes, massage parlors. It literally is just cloning itself across 5 or 6 different walls here. So now we head down the street to look at Just Go Supermarket, which is surrounded by more shops. This place is a little bit older than the other one. But here we go. We have a tailor, a salon, a couple of restaurants. We have Sichuan Mala, a healing foot place, dentist. And the selection of restaurants just keeps going on and on and on. We have this Mandalay Dental, and then the huge Just Go Anchor Supermarket right in the middle of the plaza. Followed by an endless string of restaurants, massage parlors, and other stuff. So those are the Asian places that I've seen while traveling in Houston.
Good evening, and congratulations to this year's Asia Society Southern California honorees. I applaud your work to build more diverse, inclusive societies where everyone is treated respectfully and has an equal opportunity to achieve their dreams. That has been my life's work as well. And even amid today's stark divisions and surges of anti-Asian hate, there are signs of progress. Just a few weeks ago, Chloe Zhao became the first Asian woman director to win an Academy Award, while Yoon Ye-jung broke barriers for Korean actors in Hollywood and became the first Asian in 64 years to win the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. Yet there is much more work to be done to reverse the legacy of discrimination against all Americans of color and to heal fresh wounds from the spate of verbal and physical attacks on Asian Americans in the wake of the pandemic. Asia Society has been a leading force to do just that. So, as we mark Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, let us celebrate our honorees, Asia Society, and the power of mutual understanding.